There are about 2 weeks remaining in Season 2 of Black Ops 6 ranked play. And if you're watching this video, chances are you'd probably like to rank up one rank higher before the end of the season. So today we're going to go over 3 ways to actually climb out of the lower ranks. Specifically getting unhardstuck, how to properly solo queue, and finally my advice for each rank trying to level up. And as we get into this video, like and subscribe if this video helps you out at all, and I'll do more like this down the road. And let's start with getting unhardstuck. What hardstuck means is your SR gains are minimal, making it almost impossible to level up. From a more in-depth perspective, what being hardstuck means is that your actual rank and your perceived rank determined by the game are equal. So how do we break out of this? Well, YouTubers and streamers have made some great videos and content getting accounts unhardstuck by signing into them and playing on the accounts themselves. But what if I told you that Call of Duty has already told us how to get unhardstuck yourself? So there's 3 key tips that I've learned on how to get unhardstuck. The first tip obviously is to win your games, but win them fast. This is double as important if you're Crimson or above. The exact wording from Call of Duty on SR gain is that team performance and the margin of victory are the primary considerations for SR gains and losses in ranks Crimson and above. This means that if you're Crimson and you're not gaining a ton of SR, the #1 most important thing that you can do is win your games by a substantial margin. If we're talking hardpoint, don't let your opponent get more than 100 points. If we're talking S&D, try to win in 6-0, 6-1, 6-2, or control, try to 3-0 or 3-1. Obviously, when you're playing ranked, everybody's goal is to win the game, so this doesn't really change much. But sometimes when you're up 5-0 in a search and destroy, you might try to 360 off a top third for a final kill cam. And then if your opponents win a couple more rounds after that, all of a sudden you've won the game 6-4 and you're earning 19 SR instead of 25 or 30. And when you string together a lot of wins that are by a substantial margin, that's when you can finally get out of being fully hardstuck and earn SR upwards of 70 to 75. And the second tip for being out of the hardstuck cycle is good individual performance. This is something that matters more if you're ranked to diamond or below, as the exact wording from Call of Duty is that if you're diamond or below, you'll consistently earn bigger SR payouts when you perform well and have a reduced amount of SR losses if you've lost but played well in terms of your performance. This is yet another one that goes without saying. Obviously, you're trying to perform the best that you can in every game, but being good at a game like Call of Duty requires being good at a ton of aspects of the game, like gun skill, positioning, spawn knowledge. So even if you're a player that's diamond or crimson and feels like you've plateaued in terms of your skill, don't necessarily count yourself out. Always be striving to improve at aspects of the game that you feel like need improvement on, and then you'll consistently perform better individually. And like we said, especially if you're diamond or below, you will see the rewards in terms of your SR by performing better. And the third tip to get out of the hardstuck cycle is to beat teams that are better than you, or at least teams that the game perceives as better than you. If you're on a win streak and you're trying to get unhardstuck, there are certain points in your win streak where the game will purposely place you up against harder teams or higher ranks in order to truly test if you're ready to get out of being hardstuck. And if you're, let's say, a platinum player that's being placed up against a crimson or an iridescent, instead of immediately checking out and being upset at the matchmaking, you should instead look at it as a way that Call of Duty is testing you to see if you're ready to be unhardstuck. Playing against higher ranks is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that your hidden performance rating is better than your actual rank, even if your SR gains aren't saying so. And putting those 3 tips together, as well as the other aspects that we're going to talk about in today's video, should be more than enough to get you out of the hardstuck cycle with some time and effort. Now, up next, we need to talk about how to properly solo queue. And I know some of you might be new to this channel, so you might not have seen all my videos, but last season I solo queued all the way to iridescent on PC when crossplay was on. Back in MW3 last year, I solo queued from bronze to iridescent on console. So even though in some of my videos, like recently when I've been grinding to top 250, I've been playing in 4 stacks, I do have experience solo queuing and I know how to do it successfully. So we're gonna break this down into the 3 key tips that I've learned for finding success while solo queuing. And the first is to be adaptable. Your team dynamic is going to change on a game-by-game basis. And obviously in an ideal world, you would be 4 stacking all the time, but that's not possible for everybody. So that means you need to change yourself and how you play depending on the team that you're on. If you're traditionally an SMG player and see 3 other SMGs in front of you, it might be time to take out an AR and post up to hold a power position. Now it takes you recognizing that to make the team succeed, but if you're not looking for it, some people might be confused why everybody's hopping on the hill and nobody's watching over them. Basically be the change that you want to see. The thing about solo queuing, which we'll get into a little bit later as well, is that from your perspective, you are the only common denominator in your solo queue games. So if your means of getting better at solo queuing is waiting for your teammates to get better, it's simply not going to happen. You need to adapt and you need to change if you want to have better results while solo queuing, not the other way around. But for now, we're going to go to tip number 2, which is to communicate. Game chat is there for a reason and open mic is there for a reason. Yes, there's comm bans. Yes, sometimes not everybody's in game chat, but if you can practice calmly calling out to absolutely nobody, there's the off chance that somebody hears you and doesn't have a mic and you're able to benefit them in some way. You have to do this in a nice way or else you'll get muted, which like I said, we're going to talk about in a little bit. So whenever you're communicating, if you're trying to get a point across to somebody, don't blame them, don't rage. Try your best to get across helpful information without sounding too egotistical or mad, or else it's going to check people out and they won't listen to you at all. Now that point brings us to tip number 3 for solo queuing, which I promise is the most important, and it's to not lose full. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, in that you're the only common denominator in every single one of your solo queue games. You can spend the entire time raging about how your teammate costed you or how bad your teammates are, but that will not give you better results at the end of the day. Now the healthier thing to think about is what could you have done differently to win that game, or what could you do differently if you're currently losing in a solo queue game. If you rage, if you check out, or if you start team killing, then you've already lost the game. You might as well forfeit at that point. But I like to think of it this way: even if it feels like your team costed you, let's say you're dropping the most kills with the least amount of deaths, there's always 1 or 2 things that you could have done better that might have led you to win that game. Those are the things you need to focus on, not how bad you might think your teammates are. And finally, I wanted to end this video by giving each rank 1 tip that I think you might need help with. Keep in mind, this is more of a generalization based on the people that I play against. It doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, but I think it's a good way for people of different ranks to realize what they need to improve on. We're going to start with Crimson players. If you're Crimson, one thing that I've noticed is that you need to align your plays with your team more. Now this applies to 4 stacking or not 4 stacking, but you need to keep in mind your positioning and what you're doing on the map and how that impacts your team. A lot of Crimson players will be last alive and just headlessly run at the hill instead of waiting on their team to catch up before then trying to break. I get that you've made it all the way up to Crimson. I get that your gun skill might be there, but what a lot of people need to focus on is how they're playing with their team and how they can be a better team player. If you're Diamond, the Diamond players that I've ran into, you need to work on not only your fundamentals, similar to Crimson's that we were just talking about, but also your confidence. Keep in mind that it's not easy to get to Diamond. I believe if you're above Gold or Plat, you're already in the upper 50% of players. So just keep in mind that there's less of a difference than you think from a Diamond to an Iridescent. It's mainly, like I said, the confidence as well as the fundamental plays. Just because you get placed up against an Iridescent player or team does not mean that you're counted out of winning that game. Play with confidence and focus on playing with your team, and I promise you'll find success. And for platinum ranks, you need to work strictly on your gun skill, to be honest. I also need to mention that you're not cool by maining the PP919. You're actually costing your team. So use the meta guns, don't try to be cool just yet, and I would work on improving your aim and reaction time. This means spending some time outside of ranked play, shooting bots, maybe looking more into aim tutorials. I've done a couple on this channel previously. The gist for those is to make sure that you're using the correct sensitivity for you, making sure you're strafing left and right to get rotational aim assist, and when you're shooting bots, trying to keep your aim at center mass for the entire time. I would probably try to shoot around 100 bots for both the SMG and the AR, maybe on a nightly basis if you're looking at improving your aim. And if your aim feels extra shaky, maybe turn off your aim assist for 100 kills or so before turning it back on. And last, if you are Gold or below, you're actually in a good spot to improve at everything. So find what you're worst at and isolate that issue. That's actually my number 1 tip. So once you've improved on what you think is your worst aspect, move on to the next and then rinse and repeat. I would probably start with both positioning and aim. What that means for now is keep track of where you are during your gunfights and if it's a favorable position for you. This could mean playing more head glitches or off angles, but generally I just want you to be winning more gunfights. The rest of the game will come to you after that. I wouldn't focus too much on learning the in-depth spawns and whatnot, as you'll recognize those patterns as you play hardpoint and control modes anyways. And yeah, trust the process and I promise you'll improve over time. And there you have it. Those are my 3 ways to actually climb out of the lower ranks in Black Ops 6 ranked play. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by liking or subscribing. I will catch you next time at lunchtime.